on the back page, write standard form. Standard form, okay? And our standard form tonight is going to look a little bit like this. Instead of equals y, it's going to be equal to 0. Okay, so write that in your book on a different page other than the notes, or you can write it on a substitute figure, that's fine. Okay, we are learning the quadratic formula. This formula is used to get the values of x that satisfy the equation. The quadratic formula is this, and you will have to memorize it for the test on Thursday. We'll do it. There'll be some examples on the test that'll hopefully give you a hint to what the quadratic formula is, but you're better off memorizing it. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that whole thing is over 2a. If you notice, the axis of symmetry is in there in the quadratic formula. You already know. Negative b over 2a. It's called the quadratic formula. If you're using it tonight. There's a lot of calculator work with this. So you can do it without a calculator, but you can be able to take a square root very well in this. Or not very well, accurately. Okay, so does everybody have that written down? So then when you need to see the quadratic formula, you can just flip to the last page in your book, and you'll get it from there. All right, now we need to use this formula to solve for x. Yes, question?
So you would square root everything?
Under here, yes, under here.
Okay.
And it's all divided by 2a. And notice here, this is the axis of symmetry from last week. Okay, so the really you only need to memorize is the plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which seems like a lot, but after you do this enough times, you memorize it. So on Thursday, you're not going to be able to come up and say, Miss, whoever's here, we don't want to use names. What's the quadratic formula? No, we're not going to do that. Okay, these notes are already exposed, so let me clear this off. Make this a little bit bigger. Sarah, we're recording right now. I'm not sure what that means, but okay, so several times in this lesson, you're going to write the quadratic formula. So go ahead and rewrite it here on your notes, and we'll see if you can rewrite it without looking. So you have the little boxes in your notes, and then see if you can rewrite it again without looking in this box down here. So negative b plus or minus square root, so around 187. 187, yeah, we're jumping around, we're out of order on the notes in the quadratic formula section.
Oh, this is helpful.
Okay, so we're going to fill in these notes here. We're going to fill in these notes here. So, first of all, the first thing you do is check to see if you're in standard form. So if you want to write a little note off to the side, standard form, is it in standard form? So is this in standard form? And the answer is, if you look at what I gave you for standard form, the answer is no, it's not. Okay, so in order to use the quadratic formula, you have to have it in standard form. Standard form is, the thing I gave you at the beginning of oh, sorry, it's right here. Standard form's right there, where the square, the x, and the c value are all on one side. Here, the negative 3x is on the wrong side. We need to move it over to the other side. They do that by adding 3 to both sides. So we get it over to the other side. All right? And that's already written for you in the book. Okay? Rewrite the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared times 4ac all over 2a. Let's say that together. Let's say that together here. So, right here, the quadratic formula in a normal voice, not the screen, from everybody in unison. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared
minus 4ac over 2a.
Okay, all divided by 2a. It's all divided by 2a. Okay, good. Again, your job is to memorize that. Saying it helps you to memorize it. Rewriting it helps you to memorize it. We have 4 problems tonight. You'll write it 4 times at least. Okay, so the next thing is to fill in the values. And we learned from last week what A, B, and C were. A, B, and C, again, were the coefficients up here in the scalar. What is A? A is 1. B is 3 and C is 2. Yes, what's your question?
Will that be like a book put in the text or writing it out?
No, but you have to know it for the test in order to get the question right. So it'll be points. You need it, yeah. Okay, so we're going to put in 1, 3, and 2 for A, B, and C respectively. So A is 1. Does everybody see why A is 1? Because in front of the x squared, there's a 1. So they do negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times the a value times the c value all over 2 times the a value. Again, this is where your calculator should be ready to go. Get one calculator out. Okay, so you need your calculator for this. We'll show you that. I'll show you towards the end. At the end, they explain what the plus and minus are. Okay, so you have to do, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, so you're going to have to square the b first and then subtract 4ac from it. Now the problem with these notes is it does everything together, and it's a little confusing. I will come back and show you another example where it shows the steps here. So they did 3 squared is 9 minus 4 times 1 times 2 is 8, and 9 minus 8 is 1. So they got a 1 here. And 2 times 1 is 2, and negative b is negative 3. So they did that work for you. This is where, in this transition, is where most mistakes are made. And we'll go over that step by step how to do that eventually. Yes? Question? You would do the 9 first, because that's exponent. Then you would do 4 times 1 times 2, and then you would do 9 minus 8 is 1, and then you do the square root, because the square root is considered to be a group, or a parenthesis, like a parenthesis. It controls everything inside of it. So you take the square root afterwards. Now, when you take the square root of 1, you get plus 1 and minus 1. That's 2 different situations, and the 2 situations are this. You know, you have x is plus 1, or, I'm sorry, negative 3 plus 1 over 2, or negative 3 minus 1 over 2. And that's another transition that you got to be careful with. So you try the plus and the minus, and you get 2 separate answers. Negative 3 plus 1 is 2. And again, they didn't show this, and we will on ours. 2 over 2 is, I'm sorry, negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 over 2 is negative 1. And over here you have negative 3 minus 1, which is negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. So that's where they get the negative 2 from. So you have 2 answers for each question. Now they do a check. They take those numbers and put them into a check. And they do the math on it. So again, just place those those numbers in there. And what you're going to need next is a blank sheet of paper. You're not graphing. We're going to do one of these questions and write it out, as you will do on the homework tonight. But we're going to do a separate one.
On the back or next to our formula, so we have it in green.
We're going to do 4B in the check. I would suggest do it on a separate sheet of paper because it takes. You could do it in your book, but I would do it on a separate sheet of paper for starters. So let's do 4B, and again, we're going to go through the steps, and these are the steps you want to do for your homework and for the test on Thursday. So your first step is standard form, and that was the ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And you're asking yourself, is your question in standard form? So that's your first question. I'll give you a second to write it down. So you want a separate sheet of paper for this. It's going to be, it's not going to all fit on this page. So the first question is it in standard form? Is this in standard form? And the answer is no. Okay. We need to put it in standard form. And the standard form is the x squared goes first, then the x comes next, and then the number by itself. This number is by itself, but it's on the wrong side. So we're going to send it over to the other side. And when you cross the line, you change the sign of what you're moving. So this becomes minus 117 equals 0. Okay. Now, there's several components of the quadratic formula that we need to do the quadratic formula. And like we did last week, let's figure out what A is, what B is, and what C is. And everybody's pretty good at that. A is, B is, -4, and C is. Okay, now, be careful here. We need to know for the quadratic formula what 2 times A is. What's 2 times A? 2. Okay, what's B squared? B is -4, B squared is positive 16. B squared is always positive. Okay, we need to know what the opposite of B, the negative B, which means the opposite of what B is. What is the opposite of B? Well, if B is -4, its opposite would be +4. Good. Okay, and then we need to know what 4AC is. Okay, now this gets a little tricky. Let's do 4AC. Well, that's going to be 4 times 1 times the C value, which is -117. Again, there's a lot of steps to this. Write them down. Have your calculator out. C is 117. We have it written right here. 4 times A times C. What is that? 68. Okay, 468. Okay, good. All right, now we're going to put it into the formula, or we could still find, we could take it a step further. Let's keep going. Yeah, let's take it a step further. So you have those components. I need to know what the square root of B squared minus 4AC is. Square root of B squared, which is 16, minus, now here we got to be careful, minus what this is. Minus a -468. That's where you got to be careful. So that's a common mistake for kids. They don't minus a minus because then this becomes a plus. A lot of people say, well, it's already minus, but it's not. I mean, it's already minus, yes, but you want minus 4AC. Okay, so that turns into the square root of what? 484. Okay, so let's look at what we got here. Now, if we put it into the quadratic formula, so write the quadratic formula down. X equals negative the b value plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so we're going to put in those values that we have. Okay, I suggest you write everything out and then sub in. Don't try to put everything in at once. You rarely get the right answer. Trust me, I've done this a lot. Yes.
So since we had to put the opposite, once you put it back in again, only show me a negative b.
Let's see. X equals negative b. That's 4. Not minus 4, it's 4. We already got its opposite. Okay? Plus or minus the square root of 484. All over 2a.
So which one comes first? Top and
Well, we do the top separate from the bottom. We get to that in a minute. Hold on. Everybody got it written down? Okay, you should have this written down. Please write it down. Make sure it's written down. Number 2 there. Common mistake is to forget 2 times a is 2a is 2. 2a is 2. Okay, so we used this. We used b squared. Or no, we didn't have to use b. We already used b squared. So we use these 3 components, and we have those 3 components on there. Again, if you break it down like this, it works better. So there's 2 situations. There's plus the square root of 484 and minus the square root of 484. So now next step is this. X equals 4 plus, what's the square root of 484? 22 over 2. Or x equals 4 minus 22 over 2. This is where she was saying, do you do the top first? Yes. We're going to do the top first. And then divide by 2. So x equals 26 divided by 2. Or x equals negative 18 divided by 2. 4 minus 22, 18, right? Yeah. Okay, 26 divided by 2 is...
13.
This is 13. And 18 divided by 2, or negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. Okay, so these are your answers. Again, you should have all this written down. If you skip a step, you're not going to get it right. And this can get a little bit difficult. We're going to walk through another one. They don't always come out. The homework ones do not come out to the even numbers. We're going to show you one without an even number on the homework. So,
Question.
yes,
If it doesn't come out to be an even number, how do you know when to stop?
I'll show you that. We'll do one more example in a second. Let's do number 7 on the homework. So on a separate sheet of paper, turn to 447. 447. Four 47, number 7. Let's look at that. Were you questioning? Square root of 484 is 22. Don't try to do it all at once. Okay. I suggest, again, start on a fresh page. And we're still recording here. Okay, so actually we should probably do number 4 here. All right, I'm sorry. We'll do this number 4 here instead. No, we're going to do it in the notes. No, we're going to do the one from the notes as an example. That way you'll see better what the deal is. You can just add it to your homework paper. That's fine. So we're going to do a question like the homework question, and this is the one we're doing here. So on your paper, write negative 3x squared plus 5x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, the sky is not falling. Just write it on your homework. Write it on your homework. Well, maybe we get this one done quickly, we can start tonight. But I get questions like, yes, Tyler? Yes. If you're not going to understand how to do the homework, you're going to homework's still on the board. Okay, so is this in standard form? And the answer is yes. Okay, right away we can pick off A is, B is, and C is negative 2. For the quadratic formula, we need 2A, which would be 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. We need B squared, that's going to be 25. And I need the opposite of B, which is negative 5. Next, I need 4 times A times C. So that would be 4 times A times C. And that equals 6 times 4, which is 24. I can then go to the square root of B squared minus 4AC. That would be the square root of 25 minus 24. We look down at the quadratic formula that we have written on the paper. 4AC is part of the formula. Right. You can look down and see that. That's okay. If I had you write it in the back of the book. Okay, so now we're going to have, I was kind of hoping this would be a little bit more of a decimal, but this will help. So now we're going to have the quadratic formula. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So B squared is 25 plus or minus the square root of, this is going to be the square root of 1, plus or minus 1 over negative 6. So now you got to do some calculator work here. 25 plus 1 divided by negative 6 is one answer. What's the other answer? 25 minus 1 divided by negative 6. Huh? Okay. I'm not seeing the answer here. Is this right? It's not. Did I make a mistake?
Great.
No, hold on. Oh, no. Oh, I know. I see where I made a mistake. Silly rabbit. Oops. You're right. You're right. This is supposed to be negative. I'm sorry. Negative 5. Good catch, Sarah. Negative 5. I'm sorry. Okay, so now you have calculator work. This is going to be negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4 over negative 6. And then here you're going to have negative 6 over negative 6, which is 1. Negative 4 over negative 6 you would do on your calculator. Can somebody do that for me?
It's
0.6 repeating, okay. Okay, now on your homework tonight it says round to the nearest 10th, or I'm sorry, 100th, so that would be 0.67, and that's an approximate answer. So on your homework tonight, you would put 0.6 repeating, and then show the rounding. That way when we check the homework tomorrow, you can see where if you made a mistake or when you made a mistake. So your answers are 0.67 or 1. Now, what will happen tonight is your square roots aren't going to be perfect squares like they have been so far. I thought I just grabbed one that was perfect, but it wasn't. So let's look at number 7, which we should have enough time to do it without interruption. Without interruption. I'm sorry. Number 7. Okay, 7 has r's in it, and we're going to treat those just like x's. Okay, so everybody should be writing the question down, writing A, B, and C, writing 2A. So, it's in standard form. This is very quick if you are focused. A is, no, it's not R. It's 1. B is, thank you, negative 35. C is 70. Okay, that should not be a stretch for people. A, B, and C, it's already in standard form. 2A is 2, right? Okay, again, we're stretching here. B squared. What is B? What is 35 times 35?
1,225.
1,225. Good. Okay. What is the opposite of B or negative B? No, B, not B squared. Positive 35. Be careful. What is 4AC? Well, you don't know. Well, use your calculator. Because I could probably figure it out in my head before you can pick up your calculator and punch it in. Maybe, maybe not. 280. Yes, while you were talking about that, I think it's 280, right? Okay. Now, the next thing we need is the square root of b squared minus 4ac. That's the square root b squared. 1225 minus 4ac. I got my minus sign. 4ac is 280. Okay, what does that turn into, people? Got your calculator in front of you. Punch it in. Give me a number.
30.7.
No, without the square root. Sorry. 1225 minus 280. Give me that first. 945. What's the square root of 945? That's what that was the answer.
It's 30.74.
0.7405? 0. All right, let's just go to 0.
You guys do it. Why can I just click on that?
Because, Nelly, sometimes mistakes get made when you try to rush through. Okay, now let's put it into the formula. Again, write your formula down. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's put in each value. How did I write it so quickly? Because I have it memorized. You are to memorize it. Negative, or so x equals negative b. What's negative b? Look it up on your paper. 35. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac? No, we can go right with, no. 30.7409. All divided by what? 2. Okay. Now we have the two separate situations. One is 35 plus 30.7409 over 2, and 35 minus 30.7409 all over 2. Can you give me this answer? What's the top half going to be? Well, 65.7409, right? Over 2. And then over here is going to be what? 5. Actually, is it? Yeah, 5.7409 over 2, right? Hold on. Now divide by 2, and then round after that. Punch this in, divide by 2. Can somebody give me that answer?
That one, the first one is 32.874.
It says the nearest hundred, so let's go with 32.87. And then this one over here. Okay, 2.87 works. So my answers are the 2 in the boxes here. Okay, and I'll put this on YouTube. Scroll out so you can see the whole problem. So your job is to memorize the quadratic formula, figure out all the components, and then put it together. It's really not that difficult, especially if you're using a calculator. If you try to cram it all into your calculator at once, Natalie, a lot of times you make a mistake. That's why I say go through the steps and write them down. Okay, so yes, to get enough hits, you could go viral, Natalie. We won't use any of that stuff.